hiwus squish, shishalh stotola. Siya, nitla Swiya. This is where I do all my work. Yeah, always traditionally, or people always, whatever event they were getting into, they would always go through a cleansing before they entered into that event. It took many forms of what they were going to do, but always they would clear their mind, body, and spirit so that they were prepared for the day. And I keep that practice going. The first thing I do every day is do the smudging to have a clear mind, a clear body, and a clean spirit, so that I will move forward following my spirit throughout the day, and my spirit guides me through the day. Okay, to begin, these are photographs of my family. This is my late wife, and she comes from a long line of chiefs also. She comes from Chief Johnson, and my chieftainship comes from Chief Julius. So my family have a strong line of chieftainship because of not only what I carry, but what my wife carried. And this was her family, her mother. This one's our marriage, when her and I got married in 1965. This was her when she turned 60. We're still madly in love. And this is our family and our grandchildren. Those are all of our grandchildren. And Sito is holding his daughter, our first great-granddaughter. And that's Manuela and Sito and Cassius and Marcellus and Alea and Jewel. And I'm going to come here. So this one is a really old picture. That's my dad. This is my mother. This is my grandmother, who I was really close to. And you can tell that's me. This is me in my first year as chief. I was in my 20s. This one's so historical because the Lieutenant Governor of British Columbia was here. And he was here to honor my dad. They had taken away his hereditary chieftainship then, and our people elected him. The first election ever on the Shishalh band, Shishalh Nation, and he was elected chief. So again, you'll see that the picture of my dad, he was 30 years old there. And that was the first year of him being elected. So he became an executive chief there. But at 30, he lost his hereditation too. You know, why would a government have the power and the right to come here and strip the hereditation powers of a hereditary chief? And then for them to dictate and say that now we had to go by the Indian Act and have an election. So that's my great-grandfather, Squawquayam. That's Basil Joe, my grandfather. That's his dad. So his original name was Joe Lui. The Indian Affairs people changed it, and he ended up being a Joe rather than Joe Lui. When the first settlers came into our territory, they were accepted by the leaders during that time. And you have to remember, before that time, the settlers came from Norway, they came from England, they came from the Portuguese territories.
Nice place you got here. What do you call it?
Shishalh.
Seashells? What does that mean?
It means to go over and under logs in the forest. How long have you been here?
Oh, we just arrived. An hour or two. You?
14,000 years.
Any more villages like this one?
About 28 in our 4 main groups. Our four main groups, the Hanichin, Sonai, Tawamp, and Skechos. Here's our winter village.
Well, that smells delicious. What is it?
Open fire salmon. Come eat, we'll share with you.
We'd all love to.
All?
Also, our friends.
Bonjour. Hola.
Hey,
Guten Tag.
how'd you do?
So that's all 5 of you coming?
Well, for now. Should be about 50,000 in 150 years.
Guys, look like you needed some water.
Through that interference by the government and the missionaries, they spoiled that relationship. They interrupted it in a way that they came in, they started setting boundaries and giving pieces of land to government officials. Let's talk about greed. Greed and today's standards, how destructive that could be. And compare it to with our people who never had experienced that word, greed. Because all of the families that lived and occupied and cared for and nurtured our land and all the resources, there was no word for greed. They only took what they needed to have to survive. And without that, I think all the habitat and the wildlife would never have survived. And that speaks to our old chiefs that tried to prevent clear cutting in our land. They knew how devastating that was to our land and to the resources. But then the government stepped in and by gunboat escorted our chiefs out of the territory, prevented them from protecting what was rightfully theirs. But you know, the survivors of all those leadership never gave up and they never relented and tried to protect what we had, the land, the resources. And even though we got down to less than 200 people from probably 20,000 people, those 200 people survived. And there's a reason why they had to survive, because they needed to continue to protect the land and the resources. I continue to be busy. I continue to share my culture, my spirituality, and being a knowledge keeper. I'm using all of those gifts that I've attained throughout my whole life. So I see what I'm doing now is educating the public about who we were, why we were, and the course that I'll be teaching is going to be all about that. It's going to be sharing my knowledge about the history of our people, the land, and the language. And I'm happy about that. And along the way I'll tell stories and legends and myths, and that's the way our history was carried. When I get up and I start telling stories, where one story ends, another one begins. And those stories carry all history of not only my family, but the people, the land, and the language.
See